Good afternoon, everybody. We are actually going to start the next session of the 3 days webinar on marine mammal conservation in India. Yesterday, we discussed about the overall conservation status of the marine mammal conservation in India. And also we looked into certain issues related to proposed and the recently launched project Dolphin and it is potential role in conserving the marine mammals in our country. And then later on, Dr. Divani discussed about the importance of research and what we have been doing it in our country and what needs to be done in the future to fill the gaps, because there are a lot of gaps in the marine mammal research in our country. Then followed that, then we got a first-hand experience of one forest manager who managed one of the best marine protected areas of our country, that is the Gulf of Mannar Marine National Park, the wildlife warden shared his experiences and his challenges in conserving the marine biodiversity, especially marine mammals from Tamil Nadu coast. And then today morning, we got the global perspective about the marine mammal conservation, and then what we can learn from those experiences, and so that we can strengthen the marine mammal conservation in our country. Dr. Midula Srinivasan narrated those things and given us some excellent, wonderful guidance how to go about it, situation in India. And then now we are going to take up the two sessions in this afternoon. And both are very wonderful sessions because they are going to talk about the species which actually focused for, because we are very poor in studying the marine mammals in the field. There is a team we launched maybe in the recent past, we have been working on the other mammals, but the one mammalian species, we have some data. We can proudly say that yes, Indian can do a good marine research after long gap of Dr. Divani who worked on Irrawaddy dolphin. And then later on, we largely worked on the standard animals and their genetics, some morphometric ecology, some distribution. And recently I could see one paper published by a researcher from Pondicherry University, looked into distribution of the marine mammals in Bay of Bengal. There are very sporadic studies are there here and there. Otherwise, the detailed ecological study after Irrawaddy dolphin, there is another mammalian species, marine mammalian species was the dugong. And there are two aspects we are going to touch it. One is the country, national-wide aspects, that the government of India launched a new program, thanks to the camp authorities who are generously supporting this program to recover the dugong in our country and their habitats in our country. So my colleague, Dr. Anand Pandey, going to share our experiences on dugong recovery program, what we have been doing it, what we have achieved so far, what needs to be done in the future. So about Dr. Anand Pandey, I can proudly say that, and in fact, he is the proud Indian because he is the first Indian who could do doctorate degree on Antarctica wildlife. So that is really one of the best persons to talk about marine mammal conservation in our country. He studies the marine mammals as well as marine birds, oceanic birds in Antarctica, as well as in southern Indian Ocean of our country. And moreover, basically he is a student of marine biology, completed his degree from the Indian Institute of Science from Mumbai, and then later on he joined the Wildlife Institute of India. But the interesting part of Dr. Anand is he started studying the krill, the small organism. In fact, it is a food organism of the largest mammal of the world, that is a marine mammal, whales. So he studies starting from grills to the mammals. That is the wide taxa he covers. He also studied a tiger on the land also. So he's the best person right now. He's coordinating the field team and who are working on the dugong recovery program. So he's going to share with us this information of what is the experience he got it from the dugong recovery. So now I request Dr. Anand Pandey. So please, over to you, Anand.
Thank you, sir. For this generous introduction, and I'm glad that we have a lot of people now attending the webinar. Since morning we had very good presentations, and now this is the second presentation of the day. and followed by another presentation for this day. My topic for today, on which I've been working at the Wildlife Institute of India since last 3 years now, is dugong recovery program. This is the project that I'm coordinating along with a team which is supporting us and which is conducting field exercises, field research at the 3 sites where dugongs are found. In this presentation, I'll be mostly talking about the work that has been done from our end and what more needs to be done, which are planning in the near future. And I'll be happy to answer questions, anything that related to our current research as well as future plans. I'll share my screen with you. I think, is it visible? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So my topic for today is recovering dugong populations in India, outcomes and future targets. As I said, I'm working as a project scientist at Wildlife Institute of India in this project, which is funded by the Campa Authority at Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. This project is done in collaboration with several partners, and some of the key partners who are helping us in implementing this program across India are the state forest departments of Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. We also have close collaborations, and our important stakeholders in this program are the Indian Coast Guard and the Indian Navy. Apart from that, local communities, especially fisher communities across these sites, are helping us in a big way. I'll be telling you how. And these are some of the key stakeholders of our program and also key contributors to the program. And whatever success that we are seeing in this program is because of the active involvement of state forest departments, Indian Coast Guard, Indian Navy, and our local fishermen who are fisher folk who are helping us in this program. Indian dugong populations, I'll tell you a brief background of what has happened with Indian dugongs. We signed a memorandum of understanding with the Convention on Migratory Species and United Nations Environment Program in 2008. That was done exactly on 28th May 2008 when we signed this treaty. And if you remember that, we also celebrated Dugong Day this year on this particular date. So this particular MOU with the CMS involves more than 40 countries, and it has divided the entire dugong distribution range into 5 sub-regions, of which India forms a very important part of the South Asia sub-region, where there are other countries such as Sri Lanka also involved in this, and Bangladesh and Pakistan, but there are no current existing records of dugongs right now from these 2 countries, Bangladesh and Pakistan, but Sri Lanka and India are active members of this particular MOU with CMS. In India, if we talk about dugong distribution, we have dugongs at 3 sites right now, 3 areas where formerly dugongs were distributed right from the coast of Gujarat along the west coast of India till Tamil Nadu, and then also in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. But now the only records that are coming of dugongs are from these 3 sites, that is Gujarat, Tamil Nadu coast, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And I'll be talking mostly about the work done in these 3 sites. And also after me, there is a session by Dr. Elrica D'Souza, where she'll be telling about you in detail about the status of dugongs at Andaman and Nicobar Islands. We know very little about dugong distribution, but what we know for very sure, the distribution of dugong has severely declined across all the sites, and it is almost at the level of 85% decline across its historical ranges in India. And one thing to worry about right now is there is no reliable population estimate of dugongs. As you know, dugongs are herbivorous marine mammal, and they come to surface, but they are, because of lack of a dorsal fin and also lack of body features which can be easily identified from a boat, it is very difficult to sight dugongs from a boat, especially if you don't have a boat which has a higher platform and can see for a larger distance. It is very difficult to sight, and only option available to site dugongs is doing aerial service, which is quite expensive and also sometimes not feasible in areas such as border areas. So in our current scenario, we do not have reliable population estimates, but we know where the dugongs exist, and that is also a surrogate for dugong distribution, knowing the presence of dugongs in these areas. We know that there is a huge decline in dugong populations across all these sites, where Gujarat might be now holding the last few individuals in the wild. And the only hope for India coming from Tamil Nadu, I'll be detailing more what are the issues and what is the current status of dugong in Tamil Nadu, and also a small part of Andaman and Nicobar Island, which is still pristine from human activities, still left out from human activities. In this regard, our dugong recovery program is basically has four major goals. The first goal is species conservation and management. We are basically looking at species population assessment, distribution assessment, and also looking at how we can reduce the threats to its population directly to the species population. Then habitat conservation management, where we are looking at its habitat, dugongs as active seagrass foragers have seagrass habitats as its foraging grounds, and also nearby area for its movement. So we need to secure those areas for dugong conservation in the country. Then our one of the major goals and also targets of this particular program is looking at it's doing participatory management. So including stakeholders at all levels in this particular program, and generate awareness so that we reduce the threat to dugong population and also reduce their mortalities and improve our conservation efforts. And then capacity building of the frontline agencies. The frontline agency that we are targeting in our program is the State Forest Department, local communities, as well as local enforcement agencies. And we have done well in this, where we have involved them and at all levels, and they are helping us in carrying out this particular program. In species and habitat conservation management, we are basically looking at seagrass habitat assessment and conducting subtidal meadows, intertidal meadow mapping, and also conducting threat mapping in areas where we already know that there are dugongs. And it has helped us a lot in telling us what are the immediate threats to dugong populations in these areas, and also given us quality information about what is the status of seagrass habitats, dugong habitats in this particular, and in the regions of our interest, in the regions where the dugongs exist right now. I'll just briefly tell you about some salient findings which are coming out from our program of work in Gulf of Kutch, Gujarat. Gulf of Kutch, Gujarat is a typical site where the tidal variations are very high, and where you can see that there are large swaths of intertidal area being exposed, making it very difficult to do surveys, especially seagrass surveys. We have a team led by Ms. Samiha Pathan, who is working over there, and she can tell you more about what are the difficulties of working in the field. But what we are facing now is that we now know that, okay, areas where dugongs have been sighted and resighted again, and these are the areas where there are dugongs which have been cited by fishermen, and these are the areas which we need to focus on in the next few years of our project, and we are doing that. So if you look at the map of Gulf of Kutch, there are areas such as Bet Dwarka, Tam Reef, Paga Reef, Chepri Reef, Bhaidar Island, and Ajad Island. These are the islands which need to be preserved, which need to be made inviolate, and also freed from any human intervention, specifically nets which can hamper dugong movements, and also removing any kind of threats that are there. Another problem that is happening with the Gulf of Kutch population could be pollution, marine pollution, and we are also trying to understand what are the pollution levels in these areas, looking at indicator species such as macroinvertebrates, looking at how these communities are reflecting the pollution in the area. And we have got some positive news from these locations, and we have found meadow trails which are of varying length and width, and that tells us that there is a breeding population with a mother and a calf, and there is a localized grazing that is happening in this particular area, indicating a breeding population, and that is something to be very happy about for Gujarat population. But also we need to know exactly where these animals are moving, so that we can decide, and we can have active interventions, active conservation interventions in these places. We're looking at how seagrass characteristics are changing across areas where we have meadows with trails and with dugong sightings, and we are seeing that there's a clear-cut difference between meadows with seagrass, with where the trails are and where there are no trails of dugongs. So dugongs are preferring. So that's what I said in the previous slide as well. There is a localized grazing that is happening in these areas, especially in areas that I showed in my previous slides. And dugongs, we might need to focus all our efforts in now those areas. We are also trying to generate a threat map for Gulf of Kutch. Threat maps, when we talk about threats, there could be direct threats such as nets and boats, and also indirect threats such as plastic pollution or something. And now we are looking at how these threats are varying across the areas that we are targeting for sampling. And this is actually preliminary data, but what we can say for sure that we now need to focus on these areas, conduct more replicates here, and we would know what are the threats that could be detrimental to dugongs in the short term as well as long term. Coming to a unique site of Tamil Nadu, I'll be focusing mostly on what is happening in the Park Bay, the northern Tamil Nadu coast, which is north of the Mandapam area, the north of Rameshwaram area, and this area could be the last hope for dugongs in the country, because it still has some population which is being where there are sightings again and again, and we have a very good team led by Dr. Madhu Magesh and Rukmini, who are working there and telling us how things are changing across Park Bay and Gulf of Mannar. I'll be talking mostly about Park Bay here. And this is a disturbing trend that is happening, but I would say this is also some positive news, because earlier our understanding of dugong population in this area was there could be very few dugongs, but now because of increased reporting of strandings and also reduction in active detection of cases of poaching, we have been able to now know that where are the standings happening and how frequently the standings are happening, and we have been able to tackle that. Now the gray area remains is that the number of postmortems that are happening here are too low. So what we need to do now is we are planning for a regional workshop on responding to these standings, training field veterinarians and field staff for responding to these standings, and also trying to collect samples, morphometric data, whatever is available from these standings, so that we can help conserve dugongs and actively minimize these mortalities. Also, if you see a pattern of sightings of dugongs in the last few years by the fisher folks, especially with the fishermen with an experience of 1 to 5 years till experiences of more than 50 years, you see there is a decline in the number of sightings, which is indicative of a population decline. So we do not have current estimate of population decline in that area, but we know that okay, the number of sightings are over a period of time are decreasing. So there might be a chance that still we need there still might be a chance to fix this. So we are focusing all our efforts now on northern Park Bay, and how are we doing that? That will come in the later slide. So if you see this slide, we know where are the hotspots of dugong sightings, and these are the areas which need to be now made. We need to generate more awareness over there. Also, we need to target how we can target the local communities, the fisher communities, to improve our understanding of dugong population, and also reduce the threat, especially gill netting in that area. So if gill netting can be reduced in that area through active management and through integrated participatory management, actually, when we include fishermen in our effort, then it would be something which could be, I think, coming out as a positive news from that area. Also, this area is very important for us because we are also proposing it to be a protected area as a conservation reserve with active involvement of the local communities and their support in this particular conservation initiative. I'll come to Andaman Islands. I'll just tell what is happening in the Andaman Islands, because so far our efforts are mostly focused on Andaman Islands and not Nicobar. I think Elrica would be covering that. And our effort is mostly, we are looking at the hotspots of dugong presence in the islands. Already very excellent work done by Elrica D'Souza in that particular area. And based on that, we are building upon that. And we are looking at how dugongs are moving in areas which are protected areas and also outside protected areas. We are conducting intensive threat mapping in these areas, and where we're looking at how boat traffic and plastic litter is varying across this area. This is again, I'll say this is preliminary data where we have very few replicates right now, but this is an effort of long-term initiative which we are going to replicate every season. And we are conducting these threat mapping areas, threat mapping in these protected areas of Mahatma Gandhi Marine National Park as well as Rani Jhansi Marine National Park, and also in non-protected areas which have low tourism, other covariates which are leading to lesser threats. You can see that the threat level might be lesser than the previous sites, but it needs to be replicated. It needs to be judged on the basis of other variables present there. And also South Riches, which is high tourism area. And now we are seeing that even in high tourism area, there are very good dugong sightings that are coming out from that area, which is indicative of dugongs sustaining there, so persisting over in that particular place, particular area, even with increasing human disturbance. I don't know what will happen in the next 10 years, but at least for now we know that dugongs are still there in even in areas with high tourism pressure. We have been, with the help of our stakeholders, especially diving schools in Andaman Islands, we have been able to photo identify dugongs, and there are three dugongs which we now know for certain that they have been sighted again and again. And we know that these animals are there, and especially in the area of South Riches, and we are now trying to establish a photographic database of these individuals, also with the support of other stakeholders in that area, who would, especially boat operators, tourism operators, and dive schools. And we conducted pilot drone service. They were successful. This paper is already going to be submitted, and where we are sighted dugongs using drones, and also have cited species of conservation concern from Andaman Islands. And this is something to talk about of the future. So now our goal is to conduct large-scale aerial surveys in all the sites where we know dugongs are, and come out with a population estimate. Our team member Sagar is working on that. We have also conducted gut content analysis, where we are looking at how dugongs are feeding in that area. Is there any difference? So the gut content analysis is basically done using gut obtained from standard dugongs, and we have got interesting results which we'll be publishing very soon. And we are looking at differences in gut content across sites, both in Tamil Nadu and Gujarat. We do not have any samples from Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And also looking at how the nutrient content, that is the seagrass nutrient content, is varying across these critical dugong habitats. So when we call critical dugong habitats, it is the area that have been identified by us in 2013, where we looked at how dugongs, which areas are critical hotspots for dugong persistence. And now we are doing intensive habitat mapping to understand what is the current status of habitat in this area, including nutrient analysis. One of the important part of our project is outreach and training, which I told that it is through participatory management. We are creating awareness, where we have identified stakeholders which are part of the enforcement agencies, including state forest departments, Indian Coast Guards, Indian Navy, state fisheries department, marine police, and state tourism department. But also one of the major stakeholder is the fisher folk, which is a very important stakeholder, and the school children, the children of the fisher folk, who are active members of our conservation initiative, college students, boat associations, NGOs, and dive schools in these areas. Our flagship initiative is Dugong Scholarship Program, where we have intensified our effort, and there is now there are almost 500 students who have received scholarship through our program. And currently there are 318 students who are getting this scholarship, but our program is planning to target more students, and these students are belonging to fisher folk. They are bringing us. They are not only generating awareness for dugongs in this area, but also they are bringing crucial data through their parents to us, and telling us about where the dugongs are distributed. So they are. I will say they are one of the best stakeholders in our program, who are also the next future generation conservation leaders of the country. We are also conducting massive outreach campaigns in all sites. I'll show you the next slide, where we are conducting almost 4 events every week. So it's a massive effort that is going on since the last 3 years, and we have been conducting awareness and outreach workshops where we have conducted community workshops involving fisher communities, rallies, radio shows, training and capacity building for our frontline agencies. We have trained frontline forest staff in underwater scuba diving and monitoring marine biodiversity underwater, and also for our higher officials conducting orientation workshops for IFS officers on marine biodiversity conservation. Also field activities, beach cleanups, beach rallies, underwater cleanup programs, marine species identification, sensitization workshops, and several meetings that have been conducted throughout this particular program. And if you see the massive effort that has gone in and the massive outreach that has happened through this program, you see that almost 45,000 people have been reached out in 3 years. And when I say reached out, it just doesn't mean that these people were involved passively, but it is active involvement, because these people have been involved in our activities, workshops, programs, and they are giving us, they are not only just attending, but they are also serving as data contributors. So it's kind of a citizen science adaptation of our program, where we are actively involving citizens at the grassroots level in our dugong conservation program. Capacity building of enforcement agencies have helped us to reach us to the people who are actively involved in monitoring marine mammals and dugongs, and also monitoring illegal activities in the areas, especially protected area, around protected areas. And you see that we have trained more than 40 people now in marine biodiversity monitoring using scuba diving, and also more than 200 IFS officers have been trained here. More than 100 forest department personnel have been trained to respond to marine mammal strandings, and there are more than 500 personnel of Indian Coast Guard and Indian Navy. So if you see this background image, this is an image shared by Indian Coast Guard personnel from Andaman Islands, where they sighted a dugong and they fed us the data, including the location of the dugong, which is actually very helpful for us to generate distribution maps for dugong in this particular area. So all of these stakeholders, these are active stakeholders, and they are leading the program with scientific input given by us, and them leading it at the grassroots level. Our Dugong volunteer network includes these people, including other people who are active citizens and contributing to this information, Dugong scholarship holders, whom we call as Dugong ambassadors. And this particular network is growing day by day. We have now more than 1,000 people now with us, and where we are using an active citizen science kind of action to help dugong conservation at all these sites. We are also conducting molecular analysis of dugong populations. One of the paper has been accepted, and it will be coming out very soon, where we conducted mitochondrial DNA control region sequencing, and we have got very interesting results that is coming out from this particular study, where we are seeing that Indian dugong populations form unique genetic lineage within the South Asian cluster of the entire global population. This is very interesting because the kind of genetic diversity, mitochondrial genetic diversity that we are getting from Indian dugongs is quite high, and which gives us a positive hope that there's still some hope left for conserving dugongs in the region, especially in the South Asia region. If you look at this particular slide, you see that pairwise FST values, which are indicative of gene flow between populations, indicate that there is very low genetic differentiation between Indian dugong populations, and we have observed unique haplotypes, which is telling us that, okay, the dugongs might be doing good in these areas, but that is again mitochondrial DNA. So we still need to analyze it for what has happened in the last couple of 100 years, because mitochondrial DNA gives information on large time scales. Our conservation outcomes from the study is we have been able to rescue 11 dugongs so far from who were entangled in the fishing net, and this is with active involvement of the fishermen community, who are part of dugong volunteer network in our sites. And at all these sites, we have been able to rescue dugongs, and we have also given them an incentive. It is an honorary incentive. It is to honor them for the conservation work they're doing, and also they're helping us in all the activities, apart from not only rescuing dugongs, but also helping us reach out to the local communities other than fisher communities, and helping us organize community workshops at all the sites. We're also actively involved in preparing management plans for protected areas where the dugongs are, and including dugong focused conservation action plans integrated in the management plans of these sites. We have our management plan for Gulf of Mannar Marine National Park is already under implementation, and we are also working on the Rani Jhansi Marine National Park management plan. And we are proposing a new conservation reserve for dugongs in the Northern Park Bay, as I showed in my slide on Tamil Nadu populations, that Northern Park Bay holds one of the last areas where we have the hope of dugongs sustaining for a very long time, because we have got very repetitive sightings and also standings which are indicative of a large dugong population over there. And if we have the involvement of, with the active involvement of state forest departments, with the program led by them, and also with the fisher communities over there, we could definitely establish North Park Bay as the first marine conservation reserve in the country. Our future plan is to look for movement patterns of dugongs in the areas that we already know of where the dugongs are, and also to conduct using advanced tools using satellite telemetry, and also conducting aerial surveys using unmanned aerial vehicles, and threat mapping at all the critical dugong habitats. This is something which we are actively doing right now, and we'll be starting our field work again for the next season. We are also planning for an active marine spatial planning initiative for the North Park Bay Conservation Reserve, and collecting information at the site and then using it to plan for a very healthy ecosystem to be established for dugongs in Northern Park Bay. We are going for genomic study already conducted for dugong conservation, looking at their demographic patterns, genetic connectivity, and status. And also, we are planning to expand integrated participatory approach, that is including all stakeholders in the program, to other critical dugong habitats. So far, we have focused on the areas where we could do in the first 3 years, but in the next 5-10 years, we'll be focusing on other critical dugong habitats which are important for dugong conservation in the long run. And I would say that dugong is one of the priority conservation species according as per our Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and they have put it at the highest pedestal along with tigers and Gangetic dolphin, Great Indian bustard, and Manipur Sangai deer. And I would say that we have just started for dugongs. It is just 4 or 5 years, but we have a long way to go, and we need everybody's active involvement. Whoever is watching this particular lecture, we need everybody's involvement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anand Pandey, such an excellent and wonderful talk, and summarizing all the activities and outcome of this program. And we are getting some questions from the participants. And before that, I have my own question. What is, if anybody want to see a dugong, what they need to do?
So myself, I have not seen a dugong so far, and the only time I have seen a dugong is through a drone. And I would say the best way to see a dugong is we need a boat with a higher platform, and also somebody who can manage drones very easily, like Sagar or Sajal. But if we have drones with us, and if we have a very good boat to work on, definitely we can sight dugongs very easily. Especially, I would say I would keep my bets on Andaman and also Northern Park Bay.
Okay. And then my next question is, how long it will take to see a dugong in Gujarat coast by a tourist?
I think it's quite a possibility, sir, because now we know where the dugongs are in Gulf of Kutch, and we have actively identified the areas of their repetitive sightings. So I think it's quite possible. Then in the near future, probably within this season, we'll definitely sight a dugong. And for tourists, I would say it's still some time to go. But at least for scientists and researchers who are working there, we definitely have a great chance to sight a dugong in Gulf of Kutch.
Okay, we have go there. There's a question. Would the use of high-resolution satellite images be a viable option for monitoring a dugong population?
Yes, indeed. And I'm sorry that I did not include that particular point in my presentation. And we are working on getting high resolution imageries from areas where we have already sighted dugongs, and working on an algorithm to how to analyze those images and look for signature of dugong presence in those images. And that is definitely doable. It's not something which is not doable. It has been done on whales, and it has been done on seals around the world. And definitely dugongs with their short dive time, which averages around 2 to 3 minutes, and they're mostly on the surface, so they can be sighted using satellite imageries. It's just that's something which we have begun just now, so it will take a couple of more months to help us to have us some kind of information generating from that.
That's another question. Is there any alternative for aerial survey if you want to estimate the population of dugong? And what could be that alternative method?
Apart from conducting aerial surveys for dugongs, we can also go for eDNA based methods to look at their occupancy. Apart from that, we can also look at how dugong distribution is changing over a period of time. So for population estimation, there is no substitute for aerial surveys, and we can conduct small scale aerial surveys using drones. But if we have the funding and the capacity, and also if it is feasible to conduct large scale aerial surveys using aircrafts, that would be the best. Only issue with conducting large scale aerial surveys using aircraft in our situation is that all our populations are distributed in areas which have border issues. So we have Park Bay population, we have Gulf of Kutch populations where we have bordering countries with us. So conducting large scale aerial surveys over there is sometimes an issue. Otherwise, we can conduct small scale aerial surveys using drones. Apart from that, eDNA method, as I told you, that you can use eDNA method. It has already been done for manatees, and it can definitely be done for dugongs in the country.
There's another question, related question. Are there any aerial surveys conducted for dugongs in Gulf of Mannar and other areas? Do you have trained manpower
Yes,
for
we have conducted aerial surveys for dugongs in Gulf of Mannar. Although we still need to do more surveys because we did not have any detection in that those aerial surveys. But we need to do more aerial surveys in these areas. And as I said, that is our plan for the next season. That we'll be conducting small scale aerial surveys at all the sites, and also trained manpower. Yes, we have trained people who are adept in conducting aerial surveys, who are handling drones since a long time, and they'll be doing it in the near future.
Thank you, Anand. There is another question related to, since you mentioned about the genetic studies, the paper has been accepted, it will be published soon. And it's a related questions, how much possibility of doing a microsatellite work on dugong?
It is quite possible if you have enough samples from each site, you can do it. And I would say that we have already done it. And that paper is also in pipeline. Very soon we'll be getting that. And what is happening with the microsatellite work is that now we need to upscale it to genomic level study, and that also is in the pipeline. We are already doing it, and I think it is quite possible. Only issue with conducting microsatellite work is you need to have enough samples from each area, which is again, our samples come from standard individuals, so there is a limitation to that.
There is another question. Any tracking experiment done in India for dugong?
No. So far there has been no tagging experiment done there for dugongs in the country. No.
Okay. Based on your experience working with the dugong, probably this is the first marine mammal recovery program of a country which intensively work. Do you have any experience that is a good experience that can be repeated in the proposed Project Dolphin? The marine dolphin program? Anything that you want to repeat these actions so that you get a better result in concerning the marine mammals in the country?
Indeed, our involvement of the school children and fisher community in the dugong scholarship program, through dugong scholarship program, and also our community involvement, this should be replicated for marine mammal conservation in the country. And I think through Project Dolphin, this is quite possible, that we involve fisher communities at the grassroots level and also involve them in active management of marine mammal populations, because wherever there are fishing areas, there are marine mammal populations. And without the involvement, without actively involving fisher communities in the effort of conserving marine mammals in the country, it is not possible. So I think we should replicate exactly what we did in the dugong conservation program to the Project Dolphin, and the idea of involving stakeholders such as fisher community comes from Dr. Shiv Kumar's work with marine communities in the past, and that work should be replicated at all sites and wherever we are implementing Project Dolphin. And I think that is the best thing that we can do for Project Dolphin.
Thank you, Anand. You must be knowing that we are live streaming the YouTube. So there's a question from the YouTube participants. What are the methods which will be used to increase the dugong population post-Africa? In fact, I think that is the objective which you covered. And maybe you can briefly tell that what are the methods so you can apply in the field so that we can increase the population in India.
Okay, that's a tricky question because as you know, the dugongs are very slow, have slow reproduction. So they are very long-lived animals. They have a lifespan of more than 60 years, 60 to 70 years, and an intercalving period of more than 7 years, where one calf stays with the mother for a very long time. So they reproduce very slowly. So increasing population will not happen in a matter of 5 or 10 or 20 years. It will take at least 50 years to see any effect of our work, which we are doing right now. And the active conservation of dugong habitats, securing dugong habitats from human mediated changes or human disturbance, and also active management of their populations. Right now, their populations are they are getting mixed with a lot of threats, as we showed in my slides also, that we have boat traffic, we have fishing nets, we have also plastic litter coming up in those areas. So I think over a period next period of next 10-20 years, we should focus on securing these areas and making them free of human interventions, and giving them space to forage without any disturbance and stay there. Because the work by Dr. Elrica D'Souza and also our work at Gulf of Kutch is showing that animals are very localized in movement probably in India. So they might not be moving very far from where they are. So if we secure those small areas and connect them. So like marine spatial planning process says that you need to connect seascapes. Like that, if we connect them, we might be able to sustain dugongs for a very long period of time.
Thanks, Anand. There's another interesting question from Mr. Rohit Jha. He, in fact, he complimented you. The fantastic presentation, Anand. The question is, there are multi-agencies regulating the coast and coastal activity with a different objective, push and pushes. Do we need a policy with respect to marine biodiversity conservation that ensure the long-term conservation of endangered species survival and the well-being of artisanal fisheries, small scale? Basically, it's asking that what is the long-term conservation policy to ensure the conservation of the endangered species without actually undermining the livelihood issue of the artisanal fishery, especially the small-scale fisheries. And another thing is, the indirect question is, there is a multi-agencies working. Is there any conflict of interest in the with respect to policy?
What needs to be done?
What needs to be done, and what is the way?
I think it's an excellent question and a very timely question. Thank you, Rohit. And my answer to this is, our current status is we are acting on our legal framework is acting with under the purview of Wildlife Protection Act. So we are basically looking at how a larger area, where our EEZ also comes into play, and where we have multiple species of marine mammals and other threatened marine species, marine megafauna, including turtles, whale shark, and other species, which are over there, and we are trying to manage them under the framework of Wildlife Protection Act. And I think it's about time that we come out with a policy specifically for marine biodiversity conservation in the country, and where we have to delineate processes and also practices which are different from land-based practices, and also where we include the artisanal fishermen. So by including the fisher folk around the country, and most of the issues that are happening with marine mammals in the country is bycatch issues. So they are getting entangled with fishing nets, and by including the traditional fishermen who who are fishing very close to the shore, we might be able to solve this problem. I think with the future prospects of a large of a project dolphin coming up in the country, I think we would have that leverage to define a policy with respect to marine mammal conservation, with respect to integrating fisher folk requirements with marine biodiversity conservation. As I said earlier, also in my response to the previous question, that fisher folk would form the backbone of this policy. So we need to integrate them and have a separate policy for them, probably. With respect to your remark that agencies might be regulating with different objectives, so within that particular framework of Project Dolphin, we might bring all these agencies who are working in the sector of fisheries or who are working in the sector of tourism in these areas. We can bring them all together and also have a common platform where we can discuss ideas and come up with a policy which can target all these issues at once. And I think it is about time. Thank you for the question.
Thanks, Anand. There are a couple of other questions coming up. There is Mr. Regan asking that it's a fantastic presentation, and he said that can planting feed cross weeds? I think the planting seagrass underwater can help in conservation. Is that being practiced?
It's a good question, because seagrass restoration is being done at some sites in the country, and I think one of the important agency, an NGO in Tamil Nadu which has done it is Omkar Foundation, and they are doing seagrass restoration, seagrass plantation, and that is okay, that is fine. That is to be done where the seagrasses are not there, but where there's been destruction of seagrass habitat or deterioration of seagrass habitat. There we can take up seagrass restoration activities that will be good for providing more foraging area for dugongs in the sites. But also we need to first focus our efforts on conserving the existing seagrass patches. If we focus our efforts on conserving the existing seagrass patches and help in improving the habitat quality in that area, that should be our prime focus. Assisted by, I'll not say that we should not do seagrass restoration, but assisted by seagrass restoration in the adjoining areas.
Thanks. Well said, Anand. There is another interesting question, and in fact, it's very important because the person itself is a very important person. It's Mr. Pradeep Koglai is saying that, respected sir, I'm a fisherman as well as a researcher. Can you tell me what is the best way to balance between the traditional fishing practices and the conservation planning of the marine biodiversity?
It's a very difficult question. Thank you, Pradeep, for asking this question. And I'm very happy that you are attending this presentation as a fisherman. And I would say traditional fishing practices do not have anything to worry about, and they do not have a great impact on populations of marine mammals, unless it is being done in areas where there is active movement of marine mammals. I think with the more scientific interventions, with the involvement of scientific community and fisher community together, we can, I think, bridge this gap and also continue with traditional fishing practices, and also exclude areas where there are active movements of marine mammals, so that if there is any conflict, although there is no conflict as such with the fishermen right now in the country, there are no negative interactions that are happening. There's interaction that is happening, but there are no very intense negative interactions happening in the country with marine mammals. But I think with bridging the link between fisher folk and scientific community is the need of the hour. And I think there are people who are working on that right now at the moment, and they're working in the Ashtamudi estuary of Kerala. They're working in the Konkan region of Maharashtra, and there are researchers who are bridging this gap, connecting fisher folk along with marine mammal conservation. And I think it is quite possible.
Thanks, Anna. There's another interesting questions from the veterinary aspect. So Ms. Neha Shah is asking, what is done for a standard animal that need medical intervention?
Thank you for asking this question, Neha. And I think right now we are responding to standing. Most of the standings that have happened in the past in the country are mostly dead animals. So animals which have died at sea and have been stranded. Live standing so far, if it has happened, it has been successfully put back to the sea. But I think now it is time, and I also said in my presentation that we are working on building a program for training field veterinarians and also forest personnel who are in the line of in the front line, who would be actively responding to these events, even if there is a live standing or a dead standing. And that is our future plan of action, which is on our top priority. So we'll be doing it in the next year or so, and we'll be definitely training multiple forest department as well as local communities and other agencies to respond to each standing, and also where whatever medical intervention is needed, that also would be focused upon and would be part of the curriculum of the training program.
Thanks, Anand. There is one question. Is accumulation of PCB also a threat to dugongs?
Marine mammals being at the top of the food chain, although dugongs are herbivorous marine mammals, but other marine mammals such as dolphins and whales, they are at the top of the food chain. And they also act as biomagnifiers. They accumulate pollutants in their body. And with I think you are asking that if it's a threat. Obviously, if they're accumulating pollutants in their body, it must be hampering their physiology, hampering their reproductive potential. So it is obviously a threat to dugongs, and that is something to be looked at. How what are the current pollutant levels in the body of dugongs, and also in other marine mammals. It should be looked at, especially in the context of Indian populations, because abroad it has been done very well, and now we also need to do it in the Indian context.
There is another question.
There is another question from Rohit Jha. Is asking about, can the recommended boundaries or a design of the marine protected area under the Wildlife Protection Act in the form of a conservation reserve based on our team's also include the distribution of other endangered marine animals like whales, dolphin, and shark, etc. Seems there is an opportunity to do so. Basically asking that, is it only for a dugong, or it also takes care of the other important endangered marine animals?
Yeah, definitely, Rohit. If there is a conservation reserve or a protected area in the marine ecosystems, it mostly includes other mammals which are cohabiting with the dugongs, and we have species of humpback dolphins, spinner dolphins at all the areas, pantropical spotted dolphins. Also, a lot of whale sightings which are happening in these areas, and I think protecting this area, it might be beneficial. It will be definitely beneficial for dugongs, but also it will help improve the prospects of other cetaceans, especially dolphins and other species of, especially dolphins, because whales which are coming to the coast of India are not coming very close to the coast. So I think definitely it will improve the prospects of dolphins and sharks. In protecting an area such as Northern Park Bay or other area where dugongs are found, which are not part of the protected area network, it will definitely improve their prospects as well. Thank you.
Since the lack of time, we will take only 2 more questions. The remaining questions we will answer it later. The one question is Mr. Pratik Pane is asking that if the seagrass habitat gets destroyed in Gujarat, where will this dugong will go? Is there any possibility they will migrate to Tamil Nadu? I thought he is asking like that.
Okay. I think seagrass areas in Gulf of Kutch, we do not have anything to worry about, because we are looking at seagrass habitat quality, and we are finding that there is good seagrass foraging routes still available for dugongs in Gulf of Kutch. And the threat at Gulf of Kutch is not arising from the lack of habitat, but it is mostly arising from due to a low population, small population. So it because of slow breeding, their population might not increase for the next 20, 30 or 40, 50 years because of a very low population size. And we do not know whether the population is still genetically viable to breed and sustain for a very long time. And that would, our interventions using genomics and other things will come into play, where we will be able to understand the demographic patterns over the past few hundred years, and we would be able to predict what will happen to that particular population in the future. So their genetics will come into play. But as far as your question of seagrass habitat destruction, I think at least for now there is nothing to worry about that.
Thanks, Anand. That's a good news for Gujarat actually. It's because many people worried about seagrass habitat in Gujarat, largely because of the high turbidity, and that might be the reason why the population of dugong decline in the Gujarat. This is the last question. Probably related to the migration. Again, the previous question only. For example, in Tamil Nadu, the population seems to be moving between India and the Sri Lankan borders. Do you have any kind of a collaboration, bilateral collaboration between these two countries so that you can collectively or jointly conserve this population?
So it's an excellent question, and I would say as part of the CMS UNAP MOU, Dugong, India and Sri Lanka are part of the same South Asia sub-region, and as you rightly said, that there needs to be a close collaboration with the Sri Lankan scientists and Sri Lankan forest managers to manage dugong population, especially in the Park Bay region, because dugongs might be moving back and forth from India to Sri Lanka, and also there might be there could be a need for a transboundary protected area. So as far as I would say, right now we do not have an active involvement of Sri Lankan scientists right now, but I think Dr. Shivkumar is better placed to answer this question.
This is a part of CMS, the Dugong MAU, in which all our South Asian countries are member. Initially, we had a meeting in the first signatory country meeting, in which all our neighbors, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Maldives, and Sri Lanka participated. And then in the first meeting itself, it was told that Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Maldives don't have a population right now, although they have a good seagrass beds, remnant patches of seagrass beds. That time, the first meeting, even Sri Lanka not signed officially. Then we conducted because dugong distribution was divided into 6 regions, and then one is the South Asian regions, where we believe the population about 500 dugongs are present in that region, where we have 5 countries are there, member of the country.
Then they asked
that India has to take a lead role, because India has that largest population and with the largest habitat.
And then
the first meeting, the South Asian country meeting, took place in Tuticorin, Gulf of Mannar region. And then the meeting, we actually requested the Sri Lanka to sign this MOU. Thanks to the government of Sri Lanka, they also readily agreed, and then later on they signed this agreement with the CMS Dugong MOU. And later on there are collaborative projects going on. Right now the CMS supported project going on in Sri Lanka with the help of the IUCN there. And India took a decision that we will take care of the dugong population ourselves. And of course, we need a technical collaboration. That is the reason even this campus supported Dugong Recovery Program has a technical collaboration with the CMS Dugong MAU, which is located in the Abu Dhabi right now. So we are very closely working, especially Dr. Donagwa and then Dr. H.S. Das. These are the 2 scientists from the Secretariat helping us technically. And we have been actually having a talk with the Sri Lankan counterpart, Mr. Lakshmi, who is actually a DIG wildlife, who takes care of the marine biodiversity in Sri Lanka. And there is a talk, and we are also planning. Right now, we are not doing the satellite tracking, but in this particular part of the project, probably in the second phase, we will be doing some satellite tracking to understand the movement of dugongs between these 2 waters, because Indian fishermen always say that they start sighting the dugongs in more number in a certain part of the year. So that indicates that the dugongs are gathering. Of course, dugongs are lacking animals. They gather during the breeding season in a bigger number, especially males. It is followed by the female. And apart from that, is there any kind of a movement between Park Bay? Because Park Bay is a shallow water body, calm water sea. which is the maximum depth of 40 pathams between the Sri Lanka and India. Whether they're moving between these two countries, we have to study them using a satellite tracking or any DNA profiling or something. We have to we haven't done this so far officially, formally, but informally we are working together. Hopefully, very soon we will have some kind of a memorandum of understanding between these countries. And so this one population seems to be a single population moving between these two.
I think so
I think so with this, we thank Dr. Anand Pandey. In fact, there are many more participants actually saying that it's excellent presentation, nice talk, very informative and all. So we thank all those participated either in the Zoom or live YouTube, and we posted a lot of good questions and all your appreciation and encouragement. And many of you are researchers, and we welcome you to join in the marine research. Not necessarily it should be in part of the Wildlife Institute of India. As I told you yesterday, there are about more than 100 institutions working in our country. There are a lot of scope to do a good research. India actually strengthening its marine research program. Hopefully, in the coming days or coming years, all of you, those who are interested to work on the marine, will get a better opportunity to work in marine system. With this, we thank Dr. Anand Pandey for his excellent presentation and sharing with us about the dugong conservation program. Thank you very much. And we will be rejoining at 4 o'clock to listen to another very important work, site-specific dugong conservation program. Probably that is the first program where the person who died with dugong. We will listen to her, Dr. Edrica. We will rejoin at 4. Thank you very much, all of you.